Hi, I'm Rob Heideck with the Tampa office. I was the H&H project manager for the Gateway Expressway. The Gateway Expressway essentially provided express lanes to connect US 19 to I-275 and the Bayside Bridge at 275 coming from the north in Pinellas County. It's a big part of the Tampa Bay Next program that FDOT has, which basically is a way to kind of expand mobility throughout the whole Tampa Bay area. H&H was in charge of overall traffic control plan coordination. We did traffic control plans for segments 2 and segments 4. We did 4 toll sites and we did 4 bridges along I-275. This project has been around, in various stages for a long time. And again, as part of the Tampa Bay Next whole corridor idea, they were looking for ways to kind of start moving those projects along. This was the first project to the south to incorporate express lanes in District 7. So it's taking the express lanes from there, and then it starts working towards the next projects heading to the north on 275, which included Howard Franklin Bridge project and the West Shore Interchange projects that are going on construction right now. So looking at the temporary traffic control plans, there was a couple different challenges that we had to deal with. This project, when it was split into 4 different segments, it was done that way to kind of match up with the construction schedule and how they were going to build the project, and also help it split apart amongst this massive team that we were a part of. So in segment 2, that was more of a arterial collector facility. We had to build a new viaduct bridge on top of an existing facility. So that was done in the median. We had a very constrained area to work within. It's bordered by a lot of commercial, industrial type businesses, a lot of traffic there, and we also had to maintain bicyclists and pedestrian facilities along this corridor. So we took it down from 3 lanes to 2 lanes to place a temporary barrier to construct these massive foundations for these overhead viaducts, express lanes. Moving on into segment 4, that was all along the interstate of I-275. We reconstructed I-275 using rigid pavement. As you know, rigid pavement has certain specific widths that you can construct to, so we had to kind of maintain that, as well as maintain places where people could pull off during construction, for any breakdown lanes or accidents. For innovative techniques, as I mentioned, we also did the tolling on the project. There were 4 toll sites. One is a slip ramp near the St. Pete Airport. That one was a constrained area. We actually had to modify the standard building to a smaller building footprint to fit within the area of the ramp. The 2 sites we had on I-275. Both of these sites were in a high water table area, and by code you have to have the finished floor elevation 18 inches above that. So we actually had to raise the building sites higher than the actual roadway, which is a little bit different than normal toll sites. So this is both for the southbound and the northbound side. We had to kind of look at this, build it up, and then grade per ADA to make sure that people could access both of these sites. Timeline of the project, I'll just start from the very beginning. So I moved to Florida in 2003. When I first started working, the first project I worked on was actually a piece of what eventually became this Gateway Expressway project. It wasn't until they advertised it in 2016 as part of the design build project, and we won that I actually got to see this project come to fruition. So it's always a unique project that I always like to point out that it took that long for me to see the first project I worked on actually construct. But so the milestones of the project, there was an incentive in there for Project 1, which is the first toll site we did in front of the St. Pete Airport. They had to reconfigure that intersection in front of the airport within, I believe, 18 months of getting the project. So that was a big push. Another big milestone, which wasn't part of the original project and no one really considered at the time because it didn't exist, was this happened during COVID. There were a lot of restrictions we had in the RFP about what you could and couldn't do, how many detours you could have, and the different lane closure times. So once that happened and it changed all the traffic patterns, the contractor, FDOT, and ourselves, we all kind of worked together to come up with new innovative ways to kind of take that to our advantage with the less traffic. So what we did is, at the Roosevelt exit, we actually were able to close that exit for, I believe it was about 2 months. They were able to reconstruct all that area in that window versus what we had to do originally. To minimize the inconvenience to the public, as part of the RFQ, they already had a number of limitations on the amount of detours we could have along the project. So we had to coordinate with the other disciplines, other designers, to make sure that what we were proposing in our plans wasn't going to exceed that number. Yeah, this project, it required a lot of our staff. We couldn't just do this with just the senior staff or just myself. So it took a lot of collaboration between everybody. In addition to the TCP that we did the tolling, which takes everybody's involvement. We had the structures, the electrical, the mechanical, and the civil all working together to develop the different toll sites. And we also had 4 bridges on this project. And I know that they'd use a lot of help from the younger staff. They did some field reviews as well to kind of get those guys out there, see what's happening in the field, get them involved with the project, and really get their hands on what they're drawing on the paper, because it was so close to us to be able to drive down there and see the sites in action. It's really beneficial to everybody, but particularly the younger staff. H&H added a lot of value to this project. I mean, we're local. Being the project is local, I think that's a big thing for a lot of people in our industry, is when you drive on a project every day and you see that it's something that's going to affect your daily commute or your friends and family's daily commute, you really take pride in that. When people say, "Oh, what do you do?" and you say, "Oh, I'm a roadway engineer." What does that mean? Well, you drive down 275 recently? Yeah. I'm doing that. All those little orange barrels, I put them there. So it's something that's a connection. Like, oh, cool. And then they start asking you about different things about why the project's like that, and you feel very smart in telling them, oh, here's why it's like that. But it's just really cool to be able to tell people, oh yeah, you worked on, you drive on that road. I'm doing that project right now. And then when it's done, hey, I drove on your project today. I really like it. It's a little bit of a smile that happens every time somebody says it to me.